G'day, legends. I hope you're all awesome. I'm here with the one and only Michael Dolce. We're just having a chat, talking about guitars. Michael, one, how are you? And two, where are you?
I'm really good, man. I'm in the sunny state of New South Wales, in Coffs Harbour, actually, at the moment, on a clinic tour. So I'm just in my hotel room here, eating Indian and about to talk to you. That's about it, really.
That's living the dream. So, how many clinics have you got for this particular run? Because you do, I mean, mate, for anyone who's unfamiliar, I feel like I should probably introduce you to the uninitiated. But to put it lightly, in terms of people whose guitar playing gets listened to by the most number of civilians, you would surely be up there with someone like, I don't know, Justin Derrico or someone, because you both do the voice, right? You're doing it in Australia, and you've had a long, fruitful career as someone who makes very loud guitar noises, and you do clinics and masterclasses and just about everything else. So tell me, in the last 12 months, what's been going on with you in terms of your musical projects and your playing?
Look, apart from the voice, we sort of record that. It's all pre-recorded at the start of the year. We normally kick off, end of February? Sorry, no, beginning of February, end of January. And we sort of plough through until the end of April. It's normally about 3 months in total. Like I said, it's all pre-recorded. So once that's done, it gives me the opportunity to go on the road and do my thing with clinics and masterclasses and stuff like that. That's been my template thing for the past probably 5, 6 years, especially with the masterclasses and clinics. The voice, obviously, I've been on that for 15 years here in Australia. And that's about the show this Sunday, which is the 2nd of August, 2026. I thought I'd mention the year because who knows how long this thing's going to be up for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, when we've all been subsumed into the hive mind, it's nice to have a little way to archive everything. So, how intense is your schedule when you are doing the show? You mentioned it runs for the filming process is 3 months.
Mm.
Are you on every day? What's the working week like when you are on the show? And I mean, obviously, you get through a lot of singers.
Yeah.
It's TV. It goes out to a lot of people. High production. There's a lot of tones. You're having to go from playing basically every style imaginable, depending on the people who are coming in. So, yeah, give us an idea of what's a typical day like when you're on the show filming, and also, I guess, when you're not on it, maybe doing your prep, learning songs and dialing in sounds and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where it all begins, I suppose. At home, we're given the task. Look, the songs have been varying every year. As budget gets sort of cut down, so do the songs and the amount of artists that go on TV. These last probably 4 years, it's been around 85, 90 contestants. So it's about, 90 songs for the blind auditions. We normally record that over 4 days. Back in the early days, we were doing anywhere between 135 to 150 songs. Admittedly, they used to give us like 3 weeks lead up to learn them, but now it's really, they're getting tighter and tighter. So, as soon as those songs come in, there is a process, where we have our musical director who cuts up all the MP3s to a 90 second version of the song that we're playing. That will then be distributed to the person who's writing out the charts. And the thing is that obviously they're under the same pressure as we are. So, by the time they write the chart, I don't really have the time to sort of wait for them, to hand over the chart and go, hey, here's the song, it's ready. I'll always jump the gun and just start learning stuff off the MP3. Well, at least, get my sounds down, get my patches down. Because when I'm on the show, every song has its own dedicated patch. It's sonically tweaked, EQ'd for the song. Within a song, even in 90 seconds, I'm using up to 3 patches per song, sometimes 4. sometimes 5. How depends on how involved the guitar part is. I'm quite picky, and so are the rest of the band. We're pretty much players that produce in our own studios, so we're on top of the production side of things, and making sure our sounds are sounding pretty much bang on. By the time we play them, there is no time for tweaking. Once it's recorded, they don't have time to EQ everything and that. So what you hear and what you hear back on TV is what is going down. There is no post EQ or anything like that going on. There's very minimal play, and it's mainly on volumes that our broadcast engineer, Doug Brady, one of the biggest legends in Australian history, he recorded Whispering Jack, believe it or not. And he's always sitting with me, I'm sitting with him really in between songs. If I've got a song, if there's a song that I'm not playing, I'll rush out to the truck and I'll sit down with him and go, come on, Doug, tell me another story. Because he recorded all the great albums, and he always tells me stories about the Whispering Jack, how Brett, he was a young guy, big guy, with supple fingers. That's the way he described him.
Supple fingers. He's still got the supple fingers.
Yeah, he goes supple fingers. He'd come in and he goes, he'd just be playing like, Oh, yeah. It was a big time for guitar. I said, but he'd tell me all these stories, while they're recording, and it's just amazing, And he's done a lot of the live symphony stuff too with John Farnham.
Yeah,
and that,
awesome.
All that stuff. So a lot of those stories going on. But I went on a tangent there, but so that's pretty much it. I've got a whole library of patches that I've accumulated over the last 14 years, because the first year on the show I was using a real amp, real cab. So that's all in the library, sort of ready to go. The only thing, as you know, with Fractal stuff, once they start changing firmware, it sort of puts me on the back foot, and it takes me a long time before I actually sort of upgrade and update my firmware, because I know what I have in my library and I know it all works,
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I remember even with XFX 2, I was on version 9, for years. And Andrew would always say to me, just over, I'm like, nah, I can't. And I kept it there until I went to the XFX 3. And then I upgraded.
So when
to
did you
XFX.
when did you actually switch over to, so you said the first season you had amps, and then was it XFX 2 from there?
Straight on the back, yeah.
When did you transition over to the 3?
Well, the 3 was like in season, it would have been, it was probably 20, I reckon 2019, 2020.
Yep.
Right? No, actually, it would have been 21. It was 21 that I transitioned over. And I'm still on firmware 23. So I don't even know what they're up to. What are they up to?
32.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, it's been a fair few years,
Yep.
And actually, as a matter of fact, when you borrowed it, when you did your clinic at Charles's workshop there, and I had that particular one come to the studio, right?
Oh, did I upgrade it or something and just ruin everything?
Yeah, basically ruined everything. But, when I called you,
sounds about right.
Stage, I was like, what's going on here? And I realised you had upgraded, and the Dynacabs, or everything was out, So I was like, oh no, how do I go back down? So that was. When you've got people waiting, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, hey, this is just a lesson. Don't ever let me borrow your stuff, right? That goes out to everybody listening to this, because I'll find a way to bust it. So that's obviously the centerpiece of your rig, and you've been, mate. I reckon I signed up to your newsletter in about 2010 because we're talking old school YouTube, right? And we've had this conversation, but I want to get back onto the voice thing in a second. But there was a very distinct time on the internet where I feel like it was like Pandora's box got opened up, right? Because YouTube came out, 2006 or something like that. And it was, it was fail videos and people falling downstairs and, people here's some dude who can play a chromatic scale at 400 BPM. And then it was like Pandora's box open because there was people like yourself, Tom Quayle, Andy Wood, just these like absolute monsters who had like all independently figured out how to do the like Garsed, Lane, Holdsworth thing. And you're all just kind of like, oi, so here's what these blokes are doing, and don't believe what you read in the guitar magazines, and just, you know, if you want to know how to do this, like, you can have a guitar lesson on a video call, and it's pretty cool, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So you were like, you know, in the vanguard of that first generation of like really sharing the sacred knowledge, and obviously then you've shared a lot of stuff about using your fractal gear and things like that. How have you seen things change in that regard, and what hasn't changed too much in terms of guitar online? Do you still just get the same questions about like, hey, Michael, on season 3, episode 2, you played the solo to Jump. Have you still got that patch because it sounded sick?
Yeah, I still get that all the time, especially with the acoustic IR demo that I did.
Of course.
And that was, I can't remember when I did that. I think, was it 2019? I don't even know. Right, that was on the Axe FX3, but it was when I just got it, and I developed all these IRs and stuff, and I still get emails about that, the nylon patch and the acoustic. Oh, can you? And I'm like, well, it won't even translate. I tried putting it in the 23, and doesn't even work. You know, it doesn't translate at all. So, look, back in the days when. Yeah, I remember when YouTube started coming out. I remember the first time discovering YouTube, it was through a record company that was sending us links to certain live versions of songs that they wanted this particular song, this arrangement of this song that we're playing on tour to be like. And I was like, what is this YouTube thing? You know, like, this is crazy. And I clicked on there. I was like, what is this television? I couldn't figure it out. Yep. And then once I started sort of typing things in, I thought, this is crazy. This is crazy. And even at that time, I mean, Facebook wasn't even out at that time. It was MySpace. And it was the only thing you could put on MySpace was your audio clips, you know, and I just recorded a couple of my own tracks, hadn't released an album at that point. And that's how I met Tom, Andy Wood, Martin Miller, all those guys through the MySpace, and that's how I reconnected with Jeremy Barnes as well.
There you go.
And it was great times because it was, you know, Tom and all those guys were already onto the YouTube thing. They got it really early, you know, and so did I. I was at the same time, but for me, it was hard for me to sort of follow that through because I was doing so much live stuff. And I thought, at the time, I thought, oh, is this a waste of time? You know, it's going to be out now and then it's going to be gone. You know, why am I doing this? You know? I mean, that's how funny thing.
Yeah, I mean,
side story.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Like, you know.
Yeah, I was right about that, wasn't I? Yeah.
I think everybody's just like, what, you know, and you know, like your kids are just like, oh, like, are you a YouTuber? Like, it's a job now. It's a career.
It's a job, man.
But it wasn't at the time. It was just like, what's the sickest thing I can do? I'll practice for a week to upload a 10-second grainy clip, you know, and then see who like claps back in a week, you know?
Well, look, this is the thing, right? I released an album. I recorded my first album, my only album, in 2008, right? And at that point, the YouTube thing was sort of well on its way. And I thought I'd released the album, had CDs made up. You know, my friends bought the CD and I thought, oh, you know, I'll store the rest. You know, no one's going to buy another CD. And then I just noticed Tom was doing demos and stuff. I thought, I might just do a live playthrough, you know, of one of my tunes. And it is like it. I don't know if it's still up there. I don't know if I've taken it down.
I'm gonna look it up. By the way, the acoustic thing was 2019. Okay. The acoustic IR thing's 2019.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna go back. Let's look at So it's Dolce Git. Here you
Yeah.
go. Michael Dolce, Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
16 years
What?
ago.
16
10,000
years
views.
ago. Okay.
Yep.
So I recorded that. Like it was on a handy cam sort of camcorder thing.
Dude,
You
I
know,
remember seeing this
yeah.
and just being like, nah, this isn't real. Like people don't actually play guitar like this. Just the thumbnail is coming back to me at the moment. That
Yeah.
blue guitar. Far
Yeah, the
out,
blue
dude.
guitar. So I just recorded and I thought, I'm just going to do a take. Whatever. Because I just finished recording the album. So everything
Yeah.
was fresh. You know, like I knew what I was playing. I knew exactly what I played on the record. And I just redid it like on a thing. It was no brainer. And I just put it on there. But that wasn't the first one I did. I did one of my other tunes called I Gotta Go. And
Yep, that's on there. Yep.
okay, so I put that on there. And literally the next morning, I woke up because there was no download. You couldn't download the CD. I didn't know how to do
And
that at that
also,
point.
this is pre-algorithm YouTube where whatever had been uploaded the most recent, you would see. Like the
That's
feed was
exactly
just
right.
chronological,
That's the
you
first thing
know?
that comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put I Got to Go up, and I just woke up the next day, and like I said, there was I didn't have downloads. So you couldn't download the album, so it was all physical copies, right? I didn't know people were going to buy it from overseas and stuff, you know. So I've got this album, on thing for like $12 or whatever it was, $10, right? I wake up the next day. I'm not joking. It sold 48 CDs, right? And I was like, what the? Someone's like triple, quadruple,
Someone's made a
clicked
mistake.
on and accidentally bought the album so many times. I was like, what? Started going through notes. I was thinking, who are these people? Why are they? This can't be right. I freaked out. And man, I was like, well, I'm going to be out of pocket now, but who cares? I'll send them
Yep.
out. So I sent out, there was probably about 30 of those were from overseas, right? And there was probably about 18 of those, within Australia. And sent them all over there. And I thought, this is crazy. Then the next day, I didn't touch it. Another 30. It just kept rolling. It was a roll-on effect. And I let it go for a week. I thought, I better put the price on the CDs. This is
Yeah.
costing me.
I'm going to go bankrupt.
Yeah. I'll put them up by $3. That'll cover me. So, yeah, I did the exact same thing with Mr. Negative, Then the country thing. I think I did the country thing next. That
Yep.
didn't sell as many. And then as soon as I put up Mr. Negative, it went gangbusters again. I couldn't believe it because that appealed to a totally different, clientele, if you want to put it that way. But
Yep.
and then fusion stations were picking it up and thinking, I'm not really a fusion player, like I just put the hat on for that song, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just like, and then I'm getting interviewed on these jazz. Oh, who are you listening to? I'm like, Ingve, Vinnie Moore. They're like, who? Who are those? Who are those fusion players?
Sorry, not Vinnie Moore. Vincenzo Morales. He's that's a more jazz guy, right?
Yeah,
You got to
that's
hear
right.
him.
Yeah, he plays a jazz version of, While My Guitar Gently Weeps on Odyssey, It's just like, you might want to hear that, So, yeah, it was just a bizarre time. It was a bizarre time. But, it made me realise how powerful YouTube was, So then I saw Tom was doing lessons and stuff like that, and I thought, I'll give that a go, as well. And that got a lot of traction. But then back in those days as well, there were a lot of online guys that were doing like forum-ish pages, like
Yep.
Shred Knowledge and all those guys that were doing it. Another one was Guitar Noise, Jonathan Bloomer. So I don't know if you ever met Jonathan. He had he had a big site and it was called Guitar Noise, and he was doing all the bigger interviews and stuff. UK guy, and he messaged me, and I thought, oh man, I'm getting interviewed from a guy from UK, and then I ended up, realizing that he actually lived in Sydney, only 20 minutes
There
away
you
from
go.
me. So it was like we became really good mates, and he helped me a lot. And, so did Shred Knowledge. There was a gentleman called Mark Thompson. God bless his soul. He passed away. He helped me out so much. He got me out there, and he was. I think he ran Shred. Was it Shred Knowledge? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Shred Knowledge? There might have been another one. It was one of those ones anyhow. There's a whole bunch of them at that time.
Yep.
And he
I
helped
remember
me out.
Chops
A
from
lot of those
Hell
guys-
was another one.
Which one?
Do you remember Chops from Hell?
No, I don't. I don't.
That was good. That was more like a
that.
metal. They had guys like Rusty Cooley on there and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
And, you know, when you've like
Yeah.
processed the Ingve and you're like, I think I like Shred, and these dudes are just like, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely destroyed. You're just like, oh my God, I can't play guitar at all. But they've got all their tab and lessons up and stuff on there. So maybe I'll make an attempt. Yeah, that internet doesn't exist anymore, right? We're in a different world with it.
Yeah, and look, the thing, the love-hate relationship that I have with YouTube is that, you know, watching the younger generations coming through, and you know, doing these clinics and stuff, and the master classes, I see a lot of the younger guys coming in, and you know, it's all those, you know, all the younger guys that are, you know, worried about, you know, putting up clips and the perfect, all that sort of thing. You know, I mean, everyone's spoken about it. I don't want to get into that, but, you know, I'm out here, and the reason, look, I'm not, you know, changing the world by doing these clinics, but the reason why I'm doing it is to get that community, you know, up and running again. Like, nobody's doing it here in Australia. You know, I don't know anyone else apart from you that's done a clinic in the last year. You know, I don't know anyone else. You know, so it's sad like that. Apart from Jeremy Barnes as well, you know, great player, great friend of mine, incredible player. We only did one what's today? Thursday, 2 nights ago I did one with him. And, you know, it's just crazy how no one's doing it anymore. I think everyone's really comfortable with the idea of playing in their room. You know, they're quite protected in that environment. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. Oh, that's all I've known, to play live, you know?
I like the workshop and clinic thing so much because there's always one or two people who come out who are like, hey man, I've got some music that I've recorded. I'm terrified to show anyone. Like, I can't show my friends. I don't want to show my missus.
Yeah.
Do you want to listen to it? And, you know, sure, man, email it to me. There was a guy who was at the Sydney clinic I did last year. And, man, he had a whole album written. It's awesome. He's like, one thing was like, I'd love to play live one day. And I was like, bro, just book your local like community hall and invite all your friends and family. And if it's the only gig you ever do, at least it's to people you like, you know? And he's done it. And he's just
amazing.
Every couple of weeks, he'll be like, oh, hey man, here's something I'm working on. Like, what do you think? And it sounds sick. You know, it's
that's
like,
great, man.
He's got it going on. But I think that's the thing is I had nothing to do with him creating any of this. Sometimes it's just like, hey, if you want to send me stuff, I always want to hear cool stuff.
Exactly.
Or, you know,
100%.
it might be someone going to do their, you know, I'm sure you see a lot of it's like the final year of high school kids who are like monsters, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but what do I do next? None of my teachers can tell me what to do. There's no like career pathway. Like, how do I get to a point where I can at least, if I'm not living off it, I can still do it in like a semi-pro or a pro capacity. So I think it's just about getting the gang together, you know?
Yeah.
Because there is.
Exactly.
Everyone's got so much in common. So you get everyone together and have a good time and, you know, play a few tunes. But mostly it's about the hang. And yeah, especially doing it, if you can do it at a cool local music store that has a good music program, or, you know, like a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly, man. Look, and like I said, you know, with the younger generation, you know, like I said, it's more about just sort of trying to nurture them and just give them the confidence. Like you just said, you know, send me some tunes, do that, you know, because nothing excites me more than, you know, seeing a young player in the room, you know, who's absolutely tearing it apart, you know, but still hasn't got that confidence, like you said, to do it anywhere else. You know, the amount of players that come to my clinics, you know, because I do a lot of the hands-on thing, you know, 10 guys in the room, and it's very intimidating, you know, like for these guys that are in the room, you know, because they're playing in front of other guitar players. Most of them play in front of guitar players for the first time. I get a lot of pros sort of coming to the classes as well, you know, and they still get nervous. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, and I mean, I'm the same. I'll be sitting at the front, and even though they're all great guys, all I'm seeing, I'm seeing guys doing this. Go, show us what you got,
Come
sort of
on,
thing.
Dolce.
Come on, show us what you got. No, but it's for me. I just love it, man. I just, I love sharing things with guys, and hopefully it opens up new ideas for them. But I mean, yeah, that's where I'm at anyhow.
Yeah, that's killer, man.
Yeah,
With the back to the voice, which I'm sure a lot of
yeah,
people want to know about. We talked about obviously using the Axe effects. I find it really interesting that everything's pretty much mix ready.
mm.
It sounds like a bit of a modern Wrecking Crew vibe. Like, hey
It
guys,
is, man. It
this
is.
we have to thread the eye of a needle, and I mean this is the universal. You've done plenty of touring for big pop stars and other artists and stuff like that,
Mm.
and
Yep,
anyone who's done that is like, yeah, you're in the band, but it's not about the band; it's about the artist. And you
exactly.
just have to come in and it's like, hey, we've allocated the minimum possible amount of time to get this done.
Yep.
So who can we get to get it done in that time? You don't have the opportunity to really cultivate too much while you're actually there.
No,
When you're there, you got to get it done. So
you
with
got to get it done. There's no.
having all
Yeah.
the patches and everything laid out, how do you I'm curious, how many guitars do you take? Because that obviously being able to have all the effects and amps and everything in
Mm.
one box, do you get to indulge a bit with, hey, this guitar would be cool for this song, this is a vibe, or do you kind of
Oh
stick to
yeah,
a couple?
100%. No, no, no. In the blind auditions, man, because we're playing, massive amount of songs. I'm bringing on set probably about 10, 11 guitars,
Wow.
and yeah, because we're covering. Don't forget, there's tunings and stuff. There's some weird stuff that goes on,
Yep.
with a lot of the songs. Um, you know, Out of those 10 songs, you know, 7 of those guitars I'm probably playing for one song. As soon as I finish that song, I'll take it home that night. Like this year, the season that's coming on Channel 7 this Sunday, I had about 10 guitars, about 11 including acoustics, and there was a couple of baritone sort of things, drop C sort of
Yep.
things, and I only played a couple of those tunes, and then that was the end of that. And even with some of, like, we might do a country song. There's one particular Harlequin that I use, which is Charles's T style guitars, that has that twang that I love, and I use it for that particular song, and that's it. It's next. I'm quite specific. I'm very, I'm a bit OCD when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
I could spend hours on one sound. I mean
So
hours.
talk us, for anyone who isn't aware, talk us about the guitars you're playing that you play and that you play on the show particularly, because
Yeah, so
you're also playing
yeah,
your signature model a lot, right?
yeah, absolutely, man. Obviously the Charles Cilia Guitars, custom Australia, custom guitars Australia. Yeah, that's the one. And look, I've been playing those guitars now for 25 years.
Wow.
Um, yeah, me and Charles go way back, man. Like, Charles was just starting, I was just starting, and we just built a career together. We just helped each other out, and he's family to me. The guitar
Now,
thing's
did
just
you
a
did
second.
you order you bought the first guitar he ever sold? Is that true?
I bought the second guitar off him.
Second
The
guitar.
first guitar, yeah, possibly the third, because the first one was the black Stratty thing that he's got in his workshop, which was sitting at my place for years, and I'll probably end up taking that back. Um, and then he built one for another guy, and then I sort of came into the picture. And my first guitar of Charles was a Music Man Luke body. It was pretty much that, and then he put a Charvel profile neck on it, right? So it was like
Nice.
flat, 16-inch radius. It was like 24 fretter. It's fast. I mean, that thing only sits at home, and it's tuned to E flat, and comes out for the beat solo when I do Michael Jackson tributes. It doesn't see the light of day anymore, but it's got the Floyd Rose on it. And it
Yep.
still feels fantastic when I play it. And then I ended up getting a whole bunch of stuff. Like I bought one, and that was it. Floodgates were open,
Yeah.
and then we just became good mates. And and
How did you get introduced to him? Because he's still a bit of an enigma. It's like if you know kind of vibe in Australia,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where,
Exactly.
He's like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Like, cannot say enough things about how great his guitars are, how, he runs his business, how he looks after people. He's just a sick dude as well.
Yeah,
But he's still seemingly emerged from the ether somewhere in Sydney. So how did you actually get onto him in the first place?
Yeah. I mean, Charles is a great guitar player too.
Yeah.
Incredible player. I found Charles by chance. I was working in a music store called Lombardo Music here in Sydney, in Rockdale. And I just remember Charles walking in. At the time, I was playing a lot of Ibanez guitars. And I was at that point where I was looking for something different, It was either Valley Arts or, something that was a bit more boutiquey, different. I've always been drawn towards, just things that are different that work for me. I don't like sort of to follow suit, I'm not much of a sheep. I'm hopeless at that sort of stuff. I've got to figure it out myself. And I've got to convince myself that it works for me first and foremost. So when Charles walked into the shop, he had taken out his guitar, and it was this gorgeous looking thing, exactly what I wanted. Right? It had this I think it had like was it it wasn't bird's eye. I think it was like maybe a flame maple top. It was incredible. All timber. It looks so classy, gold hardware. I was like, man, where'd you get that? He goes, I built them. I was like, I want one.
Yeah.
And I just remember sort of quickly going to the back of the shop and then coming back out, and he'd gone. I was like, did anyone get that guy's number? He's like, no. I was like, what's his name for starters, And once again, by chance, I was teaching a student, and he was talking about these acoustic guitars that he was getting made up by a guitar luthier called Gerard Gillet, and he made these beautiful acoustic guitars. And he's got, I've got to take you there. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's go. So we went there one day, and Charles was there, working for Gerard Gillet. And I was like, oh my goodness. I said, man, I've been looking for you. And he goes, yeah. I said, what, are you still building? Yeah, I'm still. And he had his guitars in Gerard's showroom as well, hanging on the thing. And I was just like,
because Gerard's another legendary Aussie builder, right? Like one of the OGs.
Oh, yeah. Legendary acoustic builder, incredible. He built some electric guitars too. He was incredible, man. He's retired since. But just an absolute, genius on acoustic guitars and, building those type of weapons. And, Charles was working for him for a long time, and Charles learned his craft through him. So, Charles being Charles, man, he's always been an innovator and he pushes the boundaries, as you know, man, with these guitars and what's going on behind the scenes. I've seen it for 25 years. I know his work ethic. I know his attention to detail. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, And until you play a guitar and see one in the flesh, you won't understand. So that's how it is, because I know everyone that goes there to get a guitar, either set up of some sort, they'll always go upstairs and then they'll walk out with one, and that's how it is, because they'll be like, well, yeah, I've got to sell that thing downstairs and I'm going to buy this one now. So, and that's how it works, with Charles. He's not a salesman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so rare. I think it's so rare to find that mix of someone who can play great and have the attention to detail to build great. But when you play their stuff, it's like, when you play like a Friedman amp, you're just like, everything's sort of where it's supposed to be. Yeah. As soon as you turn it on, like you put all you put it in like dumb guitar player mode with like everything at about 1 o'clock, and you're like, oh my God, that's the sound I've been chasing all my life. Or, a Soldano or something like that. It's like that. It's that same sort of thing. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've done this as much as anybody else, but back in the day, and for anyone who's not in Australia, they probably won't quite understand, but we'll try to communicate. And if you are in Australia, you know it, where it's like, we're always the last to get stuff, you know, now. But back when, you know, when I was growing up, it was just like fantasy. You'd read about a Valley Arts guitar, you know. I was really fortunate that my dad had bought Guitar Player magazine from about 1981, and he still has them all in mint condition. So I'd go through and be like, I thought Lukather played Music Man. What's he got here? It's like, oh, that's a Valley Arts. What happened to them? Oh, they're defunct. What are they like? Don't know. No one has them, especially in Perth, you know. Or it was like, I remember my dad saying there's a really great guitar player in Perth called Cliff Linton, who was one of the go-to session guys, great teacher, amazing, mate, like kind of Perth's Larry Carlton, you know. And I always remember my dad saying, he's like, yeah, I was hanging out with Cliff and he pulled this thing out and it was a PRS guitar. And he was like, I'd never seen one before. And, you know, he had, I think he was the first or second person in WA to actually own one. But, you know, the hoops he had to go through to obtain one was a definition of unobtainium. And now you can walk into any music store and they've sort of got everything. Yeah. But it is that extra element of it's like, it's like, oh, have you checked out? Oh, mate, you got to try Charles's guitar. You got to do that, or anyone who plays. You know, I've got 3 of his guitars now. Anyone who plays them is just like, man, what is this? You know, it's like it's so where you want a guitar to be. And I think for a lot of people, they don't know that a guitar can be set up that well or intoned that well or something like that. You know, where you're just like playing up at the 15th fret and everything's where it's meant to be. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, you know, because, it's really interesting because you don't realise, because I've been playing the guitars for so long, that when I do play something else, it makes me realise how lucky I am, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it really does, because the playability on those things is just ridiculous. They play themselves, they really do, and I'm trying to sell it because it's the last thing I do, and that's the last thing that Charles does. You know, he's not out there to go, come and buy my guitars, you know, because it's you know, it's just one of those things that it's there, you try it, you like it, you buy it, simple.
Yeah.
But it's got its sound, man. It's got its sound, and I've always been about just creating my own sound, you know, and just doing my thing, just the way I do it, and you know, and that's the way.
How did you end up? Obviously, you've been playing his guitars for a long time, so you both kind of know what the other likes. With your signature guitar, how did you go about? Was that something where just over multiple different builds, you were like, oh, I like this neck, I like this kind of thing, or did you two kind of work on it as like, right, this is going to be, you know, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it in a particular way. How did you go about speccing it and going the back and forth with a guitar with him?
Yeah. So when he started, because I've got a lot of his number ones, right, his prototypes, and Charles would always say, try this, try that, and then I'd just take it, you know, like I'd need it, you know, and the Harlequin was the first thing, which was like a 52 reissue T-style guitar, and that butterscotchy sort of, you know, look. And at the time, I was playing the first guitar that he built for me, and then he built me a Super Strat after that, right, the Sonic Angel.
Cool.
And I was just like, you know, just going crazy with that thing, and then he presented this guitar to me, the T-style guitar, and he was like, you know, try it. And I'm like, no, I don't dig it. You know, I don't dig that style. And I try it. He goes, I think it'll work for you. And I was like, nah, I don't want it, man. And he still does it this day. I was like, I got enough. You know, like I can't try anything else out. You know, otherwise I'm going to end up with 100 guitars at home. And he was like, no, just try. He was quite, you know, adamant that he wanted me to play, and I thought, all right, I'll just take it home. And I did. I took it home that day, and I just put it on the stand. I thought I couldn't be bothered playing it, you know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why would I want to play that guitar, you know? Where I've got mine, I know, you know, my one feels fantastic. And of course, about 2 days later, I decided to play it, and it was just like, holy crap, what is going on here? This is not like it felt like I was playing something. It was so slick and so easy to play that I couldn't understand the concept because I was looking at it thinking, no, this guitar shouldn't play like this.
Yeah.
And just it just suited my style, and I ended up molding a lot of my technique and style to that guitar. You know,
Yeah,
all
cool.
those years, those early years, man, it was that guitar that sort of molded my sound, and it was just crazy. So I ended up buying that one off him straight away, and that became my main guitar.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
from that guitar, there were so many incarnations along the way. You know, I've probably got about 5 or 6 of those now. You know, different colors and different, slightly different neck shape. As we moved up, we got different. You know, with the shapes and stuff like that, and the radius on
Yep.
the necks, and I went from 9.5 to 12-inch radiuses, and then my Halcyon, which is the double humbucker thing, is what I always wanted. You know, with a trem. You know, you can't
Yep.
take the 80s out of the boy.
Yep.
And I just, as soon as he built that thing, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous because I'd been playing his Stalkian, which is, another sort of super stratty sort of thing, for ages, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, man, can we build it to this style? And then we started mucking around with a few things, and we end up doing a 14-inch radius on my neck,
Yeah, nice.
um, which is all the way down, or not compound. I can never get used to compound, and it just works a treat, man. And just the neck profile, and just the way it feels. It's just so easy to play. You know, and because I wouldn't say it's super low, but it's a low action in comparison to the way I play guitars on the voice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I do my thing, I'll bring it down a little bit more, but it's not. I wouldn't call it, a shreddy action, but just it's at that point where it's that borderline, but you get the fat
Yeah.
tone still, and you're not hearing any clangs and clicks, and when you're hitting the strings a little bit harder, and just it's everything you want. I can get my fingers underneath when I'm bending. It's great. It's
I
just
think the
one of
thing
the
with that guitar, yeah, I think the thing with that guitar while you grab it, because I've
yeah.
played it, been lucky enough to play it, is like there's something about the balance on a telly
Yeah,
shape, but with humbuckers
yeah,
that it's sort of like, it's an interesting, you got this like triangle where it's like the telly is a
yeah,
definite thing. The twang, the shape, the balance
yeah,
and everything, it makes you want to just like caveman mode.
yeah,
And then as soon as you put a trem on a guitar, it's immediately a bit strattier and slinky and things like that. But then the twin humbucker thing is very Gibson-y, so it's like it's right in that. It's hard to get that balance, I think, with the
yeah,
character. But it just like you pick it up and play it, and you're just like, oh, geez, this is great. It's like a similar thing to the guitars he's made for Brett Garsed, where Brett played ESP for a long time, right? And you sort of look at that thing and go, oh, it's like a blue super strat. Cool, it's going to be. But it's you play and you're like, hang on, this is got something totally different going on.
yeah,
It's more than meets the eye.
yes,
Or this kind of thing, right? Where you're just
yeah,
like, okay, clearly it's just going to be like a Charvel. You're like,
yeah,
well, no, you can play jazz on it without
yeah,
needing a tone controller. You can get Stevie Ray tones out of it with the coil
yeah,
split and stuff. It's it's what it brings to mind for me is I think the first time we actually finally physically met was a couple of years ago after years
yeah,
of,
yeah,
hey, bro, like I'm in Perth.
yeah,
Where are you? And I'd be like, oh, I'm in like, Dallas or something. It's like, oh, damn, we're going to try and catch up. I'm doing a workshop.
yeah,
I was at Charles's place and, we were just kind of showing me around the workshop for the first time. And I hear the door, the key in the door open and you sort of come in and, Charles, oh, you got to like try this thing. You're like, oh, Jesus, Leon, what are you doing here? And, it was immediately...
yeah,
And, and it was just like watching these two minds meld where he was like, I've got that neck pickup. I've cracked it, I've got the neck humbucker ready to go. And you're like, cool, I want to hear it. He's like, right, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to put it in your guitar. And you're sitting there playing.
Yeah.
And he comes and he's like, right, where's your guitar? And you're like, oh, I forgot I got the ones with single coils on me, like the guitars at home kind of thing. So,
yeah.
But I think it's, and I've, like, have you met Ben Dewhurst before? Do you know Ben? He's in Melbourne.
I don't think I have, no.
He's got a couple of Charles's builds, but we were talking, he was like, mate, he's like the master of the neck pickup. Like, when do you ever hear like a neck humbucker that doesn't just sound like mud or doesn't sound overly hot or overly quiet? So I think that's the one thing. Every one of his guitars is like the neck pickup tone is the thing that I show people, and they're just like,
it's ridiculous,
how?
Yeah.
Because he also makes the pickups, right? And
That's right.
you know, if there's specific hardware where he's like, the off-the-shelf stuff's okay, but I'm sure I can figure out a way to make something better. It's like that full-scale integration on a guitar, he's not just assembling stuff, right?
Yes, exactly right, mate. No, it's from scratch, mate. You got just a hunk of timber in the corner, you go and pick it, and the process starts. You know, it's not nothing. Everything is internal, man. Everything. You know.
Yeah, it's
starting
look,
to do his own bridges there, like on your guitar.
Yeah, which, you know, of course, because I was like, hey, I kind of want a hardtail version of my other guitar. And it's like, yeah, well, if you like the way that one plays, you know, like typical hardtail bridges have a different string spacing, so I'll just make one, and then it'll feel right. So yeah, man, it's what a buddy to have, right? Where you can pick, someone who's like really, really gone into the weeds on stuff with that. It's it's like, there's a few guys like that where it's like, national treasure status, in my opinion, where it's like what they've been willing to try, maybe, so that a bunch of idiots like us don't have to try it. We can just, that's what I like, because it's like pick it up and play it and it kind of feels right. So going right back in terms of how, I say like the gigs that you do now, primarily, like say The Voice, if that was to take place, say 25 years ago, when you first, basically what I'm saying is tell me about your first touring gig and how it's different to what you do now. What do you like more about how you do it now, and what do you kind of miss about the way the industry was?
Oh man, look, I have seen it evolve right to what it is now. I mean, there was a lot more touring back in those days, and these days, 5-6 states is considered a tour, in Australia, and that's nothing. It's not even, most of the time it's not even worth going out, because you know what I mean, like, and back in those days, we were doing a lot of dates, man, a lot of traveling and stuff like that. But in saying that, guys like Guy Sebastian and stuff like that, they're still doing big days, big dates. He's got like a 60-day tour at the end of the year that I'm not on, mind you. But all my mates are on it, and so he's still doing it. He's doing regional, he's doing all that, and he's already completed like 30 dates, like an arenas tour here, around Australia. So now he's doing another 60 dates. So it's still happening, but not for the, the early openers, with the new artists and stuff like that. That's unheard of. You would never, unless they crack the code and, all of a sudden they're just like, voila, I'm here and everyone's wanting to go. But you do get the independent guys, your Ocean Alleys and all those style bands that are touring their butts off, man. They're doing a lot of work, and great bands that are doing that thing. But I'm talking more on the mainstream side of things, because that's where I sort of come from. I did my first tour in '92. Man, were you actually born at that point?
I was 4.
Well, there you go, man. While you were sort of, getting ready for prep school, I was touring, So, and that was with another funny story, with a guy called Hugh Wilson, who was on a TV show called Star Search. He won the whole thing. Glenn Wheatley signed him up. So when he sort of asked me to play for him, it was like, am I ready to do this? I don't think I'm good enough, you know?
Yep.
And we ended up doing it. It was an incredible experience. He was, like I said, signed to Glenn Wheatley. So for me to do that, because I was such a big Brett Garsett fan, I was like, I'm going to finally meet this guy. You know, I finally met, which I never did. But I just felt like, you know, like part of that, you know, the part of the family. I'm thinking, you know, I'm with Glenn Wheatley, you know, we're touring with Glenn Wheatley. He's managing, you know, and stuff like that. But that sort of lasted about 18 months, you know, and then it sort of, you know, died out. And then I just found myself wondering, because I'm a cabinet maker by trade, so I left school year 10. And I did my trade and then went pretty much straight into music. And it was either go back to cabinet making or sort of continue on the path, you
Yep.
know. So, you know, I had my parents sort of saying things like, you know, I think you better go back, you know. There's no work, you know. And I'm like, I'm not going back. There's no way. So I became like I did cleaning for 6 months. I became a cleaner, cleaning TABs, which were, you know, the bedding
Yep.
stores at that in those days. You know, office blocks, toilets, whatever that I was assigned to do. And I loved the job because I could go there anytime I wanted to. Like at night, I could go there at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, as long as it was done before 7 a.m. So I would literally, you know, go to a gig and then go straight and do some cleaning. And then I
Yep.
had all day to practice and do whatever I wanted to. And then eventually I found myself in a music store and, you know, you get players coming in saying things like, oh, you know, are you doing any gigs? Oh, we've got a gig, you know. And then I sort of slowly went into the covers thing. I did apply for a lot of the covers bands that were looking for guitar players, and I sort of got my own work through that as well. Sort of just used some initiative and just thought, you know,
Yep.
no one's gonna book me because no one knows who I am. So I'm just gonna make my own work up, you know. And that's what I did, man. I literally did that. It wasn't rocket science. I just went to every audition I could think of and just auditioned for a lot of covers bands until, you know, I scored a bunch of them, and then I was working 4 or 5 nights a week, and that's what started me off, you know. And then obviously, as it is in the music industry, you start playing with different players, and these players eventually become musical directors, and you know the cream of the crop, you know. And then I happen to be there, you know, and it's just like, all right, we'll get Dolce, you know, he's reliable enough, he'll do, you know, and that's how it worked, you know, and then
He'll
just
show
just
up on
cascaded
time.
from
All he
there.
asks is for a kebab on the rider, and it's
Well,
fine.
that's it. I don't ask for much, you know, a couple of kebabs and you know, and some still water. That's it. I'm pretty easy. So and that's how I developed it. And then I
Yeah.
just started scoring a lot of the, you know, recommendations, and you know, you try and use this guy, you know, and it really sort of started happening for me at around like 2003. That's when it really sort of started picking up, when Australian Idol was kicking off,
Because that
and
was
we
a,
were
you
just
know, that was a juggernaut. Like the
that was
number
a
of
juggernaut. Yeah,
careers that kicked off. It's easy to
yeah.
look at it as a, you know, when I was in high school, we were just like, oh, Australian Idol. Yeah, there's some people who, you know, singers getting a break. But it's like they all went and did the mega, you know, yeah, they're doing concerts, but they're also doing, you know, every other Westfield shopping center on a Tuesday morning,
And that's what we were doing.
you
That's
know.
exactly what we
So
were
yeah,
doing.
tell us
You
about
know,
that, because that would have been a proper,
yeah, it
like,
was it
you're
was mayhem, man.
that's
It was like
full-time.
Beetle. Yeah, it was like Beatlemania, man. So obviously we were in there, and a really great friend of mine, Chris Gamzelis, he was the house guitarist on the show on Idol, and every now and then he'd call me up for the supergroups night, where they'd have three guitar players and two drummers and stuff, all the big rock
Yep.
stuff, you know, 3-part harmony. You know, we're doing Queen songs and stuff, and we were also doing at that time. I was starting to capture and get onto you know, profile work, and I just remember when Anthony Kalia came off the show. And I remember Chris had called me up, and he was like, "Look, you know, we're doing like a promo run. He just won it, right? And he was huge. You know,
Yeah.
he released the prayer. It was just incredible, right? And we were doing all the shopping center promo gigs and stuff like that. And it was Beatlemania. I mean, I could show you footage. Kids are hanging off railings, just to get a glimpse of him. Just screaming fans, just
So just
packing
to
in
put
the
this in
Westfields.
context, for everybody who's just like, yeah, back in my day it was better. I'm just looking at the sales for this Anthony Cilia album.
Yep,
It's estimated 280,000 copies
yep,
in 2005. It was the highest selling single in Australia.
that's right.
That's physical copies.
Yeah,
You
physical
know,
copy.
that's like 250,000 plus
Yeah, it
physical
was
copies
ridiculous.
of a single in Australia in 2005. Like, if you're from a big market like the US or the UK, that might not sound like a big number, but that's like Titanic numbers,
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge, and we like I said, we were getting all the artists that were coming off the Idol. Once you're in that crew, you start getting asked to do it all. And we just kept picking up everything. And then if I couldn't do it, Chris would do it. Chris couldn't do it, I would do it. So it was that. We did a lot of TV stuff together. And then, man, that's just crazy times. So, at this point now, things, it's not as wild. I don't find it as wild. Well, I can't remember the last time someone actually did a promo thing, at a
Yeah.
Westfields, because it was all about selling the CDs. You'd have HMV there, CD store right where the stage was, and they'd have a big store, and that people be lining up for miles to get a CD and then get it signed. And I did a lot of that stuff with Delta as well. We did a lot of promo tours, and but that's all sort of, it's gone now. You don't see
They
it.
need to bring it back. Like,
Yeah,
I get
so good.
I get a bit sad when I go to a Westfield and it's just shops. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I want to just see like a petting zoo in the school holidays, which they probably still kind of do. But like, on a Tuesday afternoon, I don't care who it is. I just love the spectacle of like, there's someone who's a bit of a thing. And you could like, with the way internet personalities are now, you'd be able to do it where it's just like, someone who's got a bit of a following. Yeah, they're going to be here, and they're going to it's going to be a Westfield on a Tuesday night. And I don't know, what can you buy afterwards? Maybe they give you like 30% off a kebab or something like that, and they'll sign the wrapper. Whatever, some gimmick. Like, I feel like people are itching for that. They see enough stuff
I reckon,
online, but it's
yeah.
like, it'd be a thing,
you're
like
right.
next to and it was always like next to the food court, right? So,
Exactly.
it's good for all the vendors, and could be onto
Absolutely,
something.
man. It just creates a great vibe, and I just miss those things. As the clinics, as we were talking about earlier, it's like I used to grow up going to those things, and just getting inspired and going, wow, this is crazy. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy.
I always think of, I know, apparently, trying to think of who it was. I think it was the Helicasters did like a clinic here in Perth right around the time I started playing guitar, and I didn't go to it. But my dad and a couple of his buddies went to it, and he was like, there was like 10 people there. So we just hung out with like Jerry and Ray, and it's, they're doing all the stuff, and you're just having
Crazy,
a wicked time with these dudes. And I remember the first one I went to was the Steve Vai in-store for Cosmic Sound when it opened.
Oh, wow.
And, like, you could line up and get something signed by Steve. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I couldn't. He's Steve Vai. He's like a god,
Yeah.
And mate, he showed up with his entire band. It was like Steve, Billy, Dave Weiner, whoever was playing drunk. Like, the whole crew showed up, and they were just hanging out in this music store in Perth,
How good is
before
that?
they had a gig. And, he just like thoroughly entertained everybody. He didn't do any playing. But, he's on the mic and he's like, he's cracking jokes, and, people are bringing up their guitars, and he's like, Joe Satriani model. What's wrong with you? Like, you got to get a gem. Just that kind of thing, which was like, and
man.
I remember that so well. But you know what? From that, it was like, I remember one of the guys who worked at the store was like, oh, hey, you want to see like a rack? And I was like, what's a rack? He's like, check this out. And he had, an Eventide. And it was like the Passion and Warfare setup. He's like, I'm going to show Steve later. And I was like, I was like, bro, what is this stuff? I've never heard of it. He's like, oh, it's really cheap at the moment if you ever want to get into it. So that was that kind of thing where you just get introduced to like, you know, you get introduced to the local crew and people who have fun stuff and fun stories to share. And
so good.
That sort of stuff is like critically important. Look, I'm the worst with this where I'm like, if I buy a set of strings, I'm like, oh, I'll just go online, you know, have it delivered to my door the next day, you know, but so I'm part of the problem where, but also I want that atmosphere where it's like, you know, you go to your local music store, even if it's like twice a year where they just have a thing where it'll be the local clinician come in or, you know, hey, we're going to have a sale on all this stuff, but they have like a private viewing night and things like that. And I know there's places that do that, but I feel like that actual, you know, just trying a little bit.
Oh, 100%.
People are crying out for it.
100% it's crying out for that, you know. And I mean, there's some great shops out there that are trying to stay afloat, you know, as well. And it's hard for them to sort of put on nights like that too, just with the expense and you know. And I know we're doing a clinic here in Byron Music on the way down, so that'd be next week. I'm doing a trio.
Great bunch of dudes. That's a great story.
Yeah. Nick Sergi's just a legend. You know, and shops like that, man, they're doing it for the community. Do you know what I mean? He's just so passionate about what he does. You know, he puts on these nights, you know, without fail, and, you know, without whinging, he'll just go, yeah, I need to do this, you know, for the community. Let's get this happening. You know, and it's those type of shops you want to be supporting, you know, those guys. So,
I mean, Andrew, independent music, you know, the stuff he does where it's so awesome where it's like, Andrew, you don't have to do this. It's like, yeah, but, you know, not everyone has access to all the awesome stuff. And sometimes just getting people, you know, you get people in a room and people do what they do. And that's where the magic happens.
Exactly, man. Exactly right. That's where I'm going tomorrow, actually. I'm going to be
fantastic.
There. He's got a 11 a.m. jam session happening with his guitar teachers. I'm going to sit in on, you know. So that'll be good.
I always just say to him, it's like, have your 11 a.m. jam. I'll just make the tea. You know, that's what I'm qualified to do with his bunch of dudes. They're all monsters. Man. So good.
They're crazy players, man.
So I love sharing this story as when I say, I know you, and they're like, oh, Michael Dolce, like, is that the guy off The Voice? And I love to recount this story that happened to us less than a year ago. But will you just explain why I've mentioned kebabs and maybe, you know, Lebanese food so much? And what happened to us the last time we were in Brisbane?
Oh, the 100 guitar player thing. That was crazy good. Brett
that was cool.
Well.
Yeah.
Was it the first
Larry
night?
Mitchell.
Larry Mitchell as well. Was it the first night that we got pretty hungry at around 11:30, 12 midnight? And we just went roaming the streets looking for everything. And then we just stumbled across this Lebanese, you know, restaurant. I'm thinking, surely they're not open.
It was like restaurant/disco.
Well,
because
that
there was
was
a
the
DJ
thing.
and a dance floor.
There was a DJ on the right. I'm thinking, is this a restaurant? It's a nightclub. And they're like, no, come in, sit down and eat, you know. And it was just the most ridiculous meal. We're like, oh, man. And we went there 2 nights in a row, didn't we?
Because, of course, the next night, you know, we managed to get Brett out where I remember being in the escalator and it was like, yeah, okay, cool. He's had enough of us. He wants to turn in. And we were like, oh, Brett, you want to get some food? And he was like, yeah, I think I do. And we were both like, yes, tonight's the night. And, of course, we walked around and everywhere was closed. Yeah. So we went to the Lebanese with Brett. That was one of those moments where I was like, okay, cool. I'm doing okay in my life if I'm like hanging around these dudes, getting to do that. And then, of course, the next day we flew down to Sydney and for breakfast we had some Lebanese food.
That's right, because you did the clinic. Was that night?
Yeah.
You did the clinic?
Yeah.
That night, that's right. So we flew back. I picked you up. We ended up getting some Lebanese. More Lebanese.
And it was all incredible as well.
Yeah.
It was so good. So, if you're ever in Sydney or Perth, come and have some Lebanese food with us. It's the one thing that keeps us going.
I love the Lebanese cuisine.
Mate, we don't get as much of it over here, but that Indian food's always a good solid for the hotel room.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did the Indian thing as mentioned.
So
Start of the session.
Before we wrap this up, I'm just kind of curious what on this. We're having a joke about it, but the creature comforts and the routine, like how if you're out on the road doing the clinic thing, or back when you were doing the touring thing, and especially I guess now when you're doing the voice because you're working so much, like how do you keep yourself physically and mentally together when doing that? Because it's almost more important than it's arguably more important than practicing, I find, is like just, making sure you're looking after yourself as a person. Like what are your go-tos to stay sane?
While I'm on the road, or just in general when I'm at home and stuff?
Both, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I've got an incredible wife that looks after me, cooks for me. She's an amazing wife and works full time on you, and she's just wonderful like that. When I'm on the road, I look after myself. I try and eat healthy. I'm one of these guys that eats once a day. I only eat dinner. That's it. I don't have breakfast or lunch. I'll just have a coffee in the morning, and that's it. That does me. I feel that when I do that, I feel sharp, right? I feel sharp when I eat during the day. I feel like a lion. I feel like I need to sleep, after it. So I keep myself light, in that sense. And even when I'm on The Voice, I'm really strict with what I eat, because when you're on that train, man, it's quite a high stressful gig to sort of get through, just mentally, and just they're long days. You did ask the question at the start. In the beginning years, we were doing like between 75 to 85 hours a week, But now with budget cuts, we're still doing big hours. The days are massive, and the recording days are huge.
Yeah, right.
So the last thing you want to be doing is eating too much of one thing. Like if I eat during the day, because sometimes we're starting recording, at 8:30, 9 a.m. in the morning. We're not finishing most of the nights 10 p.m. 11 p.m. sometimes. And we've done nights where we've finished at 2 a.m. So just to keep your mental, stamina up, and and obviously trying to keep awake and trying to keep focused, and that I try and sort of be conscious of what I eat, because that does a lot for me, especially when I'm doing those type of things, and that's I'm always sort of keeping active, man. I'm always keeping active. I'm always doing something around the house during the day, and that's the way I am. I just can't sit down for a second.
Yeah,
that's the way I am. I just love being.
It's a tricky one, right? Where it's like so much of guitar is sitting down and hyper focusing.
Yeah,
you meet a lot of people, and I'm probably guilty of this myself. It's something I work on a lot, where it's like you got to take care of all the other stuff, and then I really admire people who play guitar as a hobby and make time to just play. That to me is like, I think growing up I was like, no, you have to be in the studio 12 hours a day, and you got to be on the road and doing all this stuff, or you're not doing it properly. But I've come to appreciate that perspective of like, no, like just having time to just play. Like you don't have to I'm doing a session for someone, or I'm going on the road, or I'm doing a gig or something. It's just like to actually just enjoy it, sit down and make that time, I think is, I'm sure a lot of people maybe feel guilty about that sometimes. We're like, I've got so much stuff to do, but having that 30 minutes of just like
absolutely
play with your nice toys, man.
Yeah,
it's why we put all this time and effort into it, is like for that. It's a nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's our job, like we love playing guitar, and we still use it to get ourselves all nice and relaxed, and release the stress. Figure that. How many jobs can you do that in?
Yeah.
You know, it's
I
just
don't
like,
know how relaxing carpentry is, but I feel like, there's probably a lot more.
yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. I don't mind building an odd cupboard every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's just guitar playing's where it's at for me.
Oh, mate. Well, look, I won't hold you any longer. It's been awesome. I feel like we could definitely do this again in the near future. For
Yeah, man.
anyone who wants to find your stuff, where do they go, mate? On the internet?
Look, they can visit me on my website, michaeldolcemusic.com. I've got my album up there, and a whole bunch of stuff. And just Instagram, Michael Dolce Music. Pretty straightforward. And for
And
the older,
turn the telly on and watch The Voice.
oh yeah, this Sunday you'll see me there, hidden in the back. But there's some good songs coming up on this season.
I'm looking
some-
forward to.
I've got some
Just-
backstage footage, side iPhone footage, as I do. I record myself playing the track, and then I'll sort of line up the audio with the TV mix, and then I'll post it on social media so people can actually
awesome.
see that we're actually doing it live.
I love those, man. I think that's such a cool thing. I know Justin does it from time to time as well in the States, where you just seeing it go down to me is like,
Yeah.
I love watching those, like the behind the scenes sports stuff where obviously you see the guys, especially like say the cricket, where it's like, someone goes, you see them, batsman walks on, they'll be out there, he might score 100 or something like that. And you're like, how good is this guy? But you see the lead up to it where he's like making himself a sandwich and just like pottering around, and then they're like, mate, you're up. And then, afterwards, I know
awesome.
he's there chucking his stuff around, having a hissy fit because, he was like, oh, I always do that. So I really appreciate that element of like
Absolutely.
the realness.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
stuff.
wow, it's an actual band playing live
Yeah,
in a high pressure situation.
yeah.
And like getting it done, and anyone who's ever listened to it, like it always sounds mint. It's
It's
just
a great band,
monster
man.
players, and I think it's really easy. It's really easy to write off mainstream stuff sometimes as a guitar player because it's always like, oh, you like that thing? No, the real thing you have to listen to is this, but
Yeah.
not in that case. We've got
Look,
some-
man, we're all pretty lucky to have the position on that show, and it's been a blessing for me because it's kept me in work for the last 15 years, and I could stay in my hometown, and stay with my family. So it's been awesome for that reason. Yeah.
That's been true rock and roll stories with Michael Dolce.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again, and I'll put links to the website and stuff like that in the description, man. And thank you so much for your time, dude.
Thank you, but mate,
Be well.
Look forward to catching up in person.
Soon. We got to do it this year.
Absolutely.
All right. Catch you, mate.